Graceland, the iconic home of Elvis Presley, is now at the center of a legal storm following the sudden death of Lisa Marie Presley. Her daughter, Riley Keough, has broken her silence, challenging a shocking foreclosure attempt. But things take a darker turn when the FBI gets involved. Their investigation leads to a hidden room inside the mansion sealed off for decades. What they found: threatening letters, secret files, and more than 300 pages of declassified documents that could change everything we thought we knew about the Presley legacy. So the question is, was Elvis hiding more than just his fame behind those gates? Let's find out in this video. Graceland is more than just a mansion. It's the beating heart of Elvis Presley's legacy, a place where fame, family, and tragedy all collide. In March 1957, a 22-year-old Elvis walked through the iron gates of the white-columned estate on Elvis Presley Boulevard and knew he had found more than a home. He had found his kingdom. He purchased Graceland for $12,500, a modest sum by today's standards, but a bold declaration of a rising star's desire for peace, privacy, and permanence. Named after the original owner's daughter, Grace, the 13.8-acre property sat just outside downtown Memphis. Over time, Elvis transformed the house into a dazzling reflection of his personality, larger than life, deeply personal, and full of quirks. The Jungle Room, with its green shag carpet and Polynesian flair, the black and yellow TV room with 3 televisions blaring at once, and the serene meditation garden where the king would often seek solitude. Each room told a different story. Sometimes late at night, Elvis would retreat to the barn to be alone, just him and his thoughts, far from the roar of the crowds. But Graceland wasn't just a retreat. It was a stage for life's most intimate moments. It's where Elvis brought baby Lisa Marie home in 1968, where he laughed with friends, hosted holiday dinners, and tried to outrun the shadows of fame. And it's where, on August 16, 1977, Elvis was found unresponsive in the upstairs bathroom, dead at 42 from a heart attack, likely brought on by years of prescription drug abuse. Since that day, Graceland has remained frozen in time, a monument to the man, the myth, and the music. But as new secrets emerge, we're left to wonder, what else does the king's castle still hide? Lisa Marie Presley inherited a kingdom, but keeping it came at a steep price. After her grandfather, Vernon Presley, passed away in 1979, 9-year-old Lisa Marie became the heir to Elvis's estate. With Lisa still a child, her mother, Priscilla Presley, stepped in and made a bold move, opening Graceland to the public in 1982. Critics called it a risky gamble, but within a year, the estate turned a profit and never looked back. By the 1990s, Graceland was pulling in over $15 million annually, second only to the White House in private residence visitors. Lisa Marie officially took control at age 25 through the Elvis Presley Trust. In 2005, she sold 85% of Elvis Presley Enterprises to ease mounting financial pressures, but she held on to the mansion and its land. Still, behind the gates of Graceland, things weren't as golden as they seemed. Despite the estate's iconic status and profitability, Lisa Marie's personal finances spiraled. She was plagued by lawsuits, failed business ventures, and accusations of mismanagement. In 2018, she sued her former business manager, claiming he lost over $100 million of her inheritance. In court, she admitted to being $16 million in debt, mostly from taxes and legal fees. Yet through it all, Lisa Marie remained emotionally bound to Graceland. No matter the chaos, the mansion was her anchor, a symbol of family, fame, and the heavy weight of a legacy she never asked for. Lisa Marie Presley, Elvis's only daughter, Graceland's quiet guardian. Long after the crowds went home and the velvet ropes were drawn, Lisa Marie would slip quietly into the mansion she called her sanctuary. Hidden from the public eye, she spent hours in the private upstairs rooms, spaces forever closed to tourists, where she claimed she could still feel her father's presence. It was her refuge from fame, heartbreak, and the pressures of a legacy she never chose. Far from being a passive heir, Lisa Marie was deeply involved in preserving the estate. She personally curated exhibits, oversaw renovations, and made key decisions to keep Graceland both authentic and alive. To the outside world, she was a Presley, but inside those gates, she was something more: protector, historian, keeper of the flame. But behind the warmth and nostalgia, shadows crept in. Unknown to Lisa, someone had already begun setting the pieces in motion to tear it all down. And when the FBI launched their investigation, the secrets locked inside Elvis's mansion began to spill out. On January 12, 2023, tragedy struck again. Lisa Marie was rushed to the hospital after suffering a full cardiac arrest in her Calabasas home. She died later that day at the age of 54, leaving behind 4 children, including her eldest, actress Riley Keough. Just days later, Lisa was laid to rest in Graceland's meditation garden, near her son Benjamin and the father whose legend never stopped looming. Ownership of the estate passed to Riley, then 33, via the Presley Family Trust. Though she had built a career on her own terms, starring in Daisy Jones and the Six and Zola, inheriting Graceland was different. It wasn't just real estate. It was a burden of memory, myth, and mounting debt. Graceland, a legacy nearly lost. In early 2024, Memphis was rocked by a stunning revelation. A foreclosure notice appeared in a local paper, claiming that Graceland, Elvis Presley's beloved mansion and one of America's most iconic landmarks, was to be auctioned off. The reason? An alleged $3.8 million loan supposedly taken out by Lisa Marie Presley and left unpaid. The public reaction was immediate: outrage, disbelief, and confusion. Graceland wasn't just real estate. It was a national treasure, a shrine to rock and roll, visited by hundreds of thousands each year. The idea that it could be seized like any ordinary home felt unthinkable. At the heart of the storm stood Lisa Marie's daughter, Riley Keough. As the sole heir and trustee of her mother's estate, she wasn't just shocked, she was furious. Riley insisted her mother had never taken out such a loan. The documents looked fake. The supposed lender, Nosani Investments and Private Lending LLC, barely seemed to exist. And her gut told her something was very wrong. She acted fast, filing a petition to halt the foreclosure and assembling a legal team to investigate. What they uncovered was far beyond a simple case of financial confusion. It was a calculated scam involving forged documents, fake companies, and a sinister scheme to steal one of the most legendary homes in American history. And deep inside Graceland, that investigation would lead to a discovery no one expected, one that could forever change how we remember the Presley legacy. Riley fought for legacy, while the FBI unraveled a wild fraud. While Riley Keough's legal team challenged the foreclosure in broad daylight, a second battle was quietly brewing behind the scenes. Federal investigators were called in after the alleged lender, Nosani Investments and Private Lending LLC, failed to provide even the most basic proof that the debt existed. It didn't take long to confirm suspicions. The company wasn't real. No license, no registered agents, no paper trail. Just a phantom entity armed with fake addresses, doctored documents, and a web of lies. At the center of it all was one woman, a 53-year-old former notary public with a rap sheet full of financial fraud. She had used multiple aliases to orchestrate forgery schemes across several states, targeting estates, banks, and now the most famous mansion in rock and roll history. But Graceland was her most daring con yet. The audacity of the plan stunned even seasoned agents. Claiming ownership over a national landmark like Graceland wasn't just delusional, it was dangerous. After weeks of surveillance and digital forensics, the FBI tracked her to a home in rural Missouri. She was arrested without incident. During questioning, she confessed to forging Lisa Marie Presley's signature, fabricating the loan documents, and sending fake foreclosure notices to Riley's attorneys. She even admitted to impersonating various fictitious individuals tied to the scam. What she didn't count on was Riley Keough's resolve, or the fact that federal agents had already shifted their attention to the mansion itself, and what they discovered inside Graceland would uncover a new layer of darkness, one even Lisa Marie never knew existed. Graceland's secrets slept upstairs, until Riley turned the key. As the FBI investigation gained momentum, Riley made a bold and emotional decision. She granted federal agents unrestricted access to every inch of Graceland, including the legendary second floor, a place untouched since the day Elvis Presley died. That kind of access was unheard of. For over 40 years, the upper level had been off-limits out of deep respect for Elvis's memory. Even longtime staff had never been allowed beyond the top of the iconic staircase. To fans, it was sacred ground. To the Presley family, it was a mausoleum. But with the estate under threat and questions swirling, Riley knew it was time to lift the curtain. Federal investigators ascended the stairs armed with flashlights, gloves, and forensic kits. The air shifted, heavy, still. Dust clung to corners, but oddly, parts of the hallway looked disturbed. A photo on the wall hung crooked. Scuff marks lined the floorboards, as if something heavy had been dragged. Something wasn't right. Then, at the end of the hall, they found it. A narrow, unmarked door long believed to be just a linen closet. But when they forced it open, what they saw didn't belong in Elvis Presley's palace of rhinestone and velvet. The room behind it was stark, cold, forgotten, like a hidden attic in an abandoned farmhouse. And what lay inside would send shockwaves through the investigation and through the Presley family name. What lay beyond was pure Southern Gothic terror. The air was stale, thick with dust and decay. Only narrow streaks of sunlight cut through the boarded windows, casting jagged beams across the floor. The room was in ruins. Antique furniture lay in broken heaps. Overturned chairs with splintered legs, mahogany cabinets ripped open, a gutted satin divan slumped like a body left behind. But it was the porcelain dolls that stopped everyone cold. Dozens of them, arranged in eerie precision. Some sat in perfect circles like they were waiting for a seance. Others leaned against the walls, their glassy faces cracked, eyes missing, limbs broken. A few had dark scorch marks, as if someone had tried to set them on fire. The silence inside felt alive, thick with something unspoken. Investigators stepped carefully, photographing the chaos, tagging items for evidence. On the floor, torn envelopes, faded typewritten notes, and dozens of file folders bursting with papers. Some were mundane, others were chilling. Scrawled in red and black ink were messages that felt more like curses than threats. "You can't bury this debt. Your name dies with this house. The king is dead. Long live the new owner." Whatever had happened in that room, it wasn't just fraud. It was something darker. And it had been hidden in Elvis Presley's house for years. Beneath the chaos, a disturbing, deliberate scheme. Some letters were addressed directly and ominously to the Presley heirs. Others were barely legible, scrawled like unhinged manifestos from a disturbed mind. Among the scattered papers were mock legal documents, stamped with seals that looked real, until you looked closer. The ink was smudged, the fonts just slightly off, and the signatures didn't quite match, proof of a forgery operation that had been refined over time. Whoever created them had practiced over and over until their fakes could fool nearly anyone. Then came the break in the case. An agent stepped on a loose floorboard, and it let out a faint creak. Beneath it, they found a small, dust-covered black USB drive, intact and loaded with damning evidence. On it, forged deeds, falsified liens, and shockingly accurate attempts to mimic Lisa Marie Presley's handwriting using digital overlays. One folder was named Final Push and contained multiple forged ownership transfers of Graceland. Another was labeled Collapse Plan, detailing how the scammer intended to offload the estate during a moment of public distraction, ideally right after Lisa Marie's death. There were spreadsheets estimating Graceland's rising value, inventories of priceless Presley heirlooms, and even a calculated timeline showing when the estate would be most vulnerable. This wasn't the work of a con artist chasing a quick payday. This was something far more dangerous, a methodical attempt to hijack the Presley legacy from the inside out, planned, patient, and executed with terrifying insight. The break into Graceland's top floor is still the case's darkest mystery. Some investigators believed she had slipped in under the radar, perhaps posing as a contractor during a past renovation, long enough to stash documents, tools, even recording equipment behind walls that hadn't been touched in decades. Others whispered about a possible accomplice, someone once trusted by the estate, who unknowingly opened the door to betrayal. But beyond logistics, what chilled everyone most was the psychological footprint left behind. That hidden upstairs room wasn't just a stash spot. It was a shrine to obsession. This wasn't about money alone. It was about control. A twisted attempt to force herself into the Presley story, not as a fan, but as a dark author of its next chapter. Forensic analysts would later match the handwriting found in the secret room to court documents from the bogus foreclosure attempt, cementing the connection. And the USB drive? It was the smoking gun, an unfiltered archive of manipulation and madness. As agents cataloged every file and removed the evidence piece by piece, the staff of Graceland stood downstairs in stunned silence. Some cried. Others simply stared in disbelief. Not one of them, not even those who'd worked there for 30 years, knew that room existed. The thought that such darkness had festered just feet from Elvis's untouched bedroom sent shivers through the halls. Riley Keough was briefed within the hour, and though shaken, she wasn't shocked. Her gut had told her from the beginning, something wasn't right. And now, the truth was finally clawing its way out of the shadows. The Graceland fraud lit a firestorm that roared through Elvis's fan base. To millions, Graceland wasn't just a mansion. It was sacred ground, a place where Elvis Presley's soul still lingered in the velvet drapes, gold records, and jungle room walls. The news that someone had not only tried to steal it through forged documents, but had breached its most private, sealed-off floor, felt like a cultural desecration. Shock turned to heartbreak, then outrage. Social media erupted with hashtags like Tucker Protect Graceland and Kakar Justice for Lisa Marie as fans poured out their grief in real time. Long-standing Elvis fan clubs, some dating back to the King's own lifetime, released fierce statements of support for Riley Keough, condemning the attempted heist and calling it an unforgivable assault on the Presley legacy. Outside the iconic gates of Graceland, what began as a quiet candlelight vigil quickly swelled into a powerful, peaceful protest. Fans, many clutching old vinyls or photos of Elvis and Lisa Marie, traveled from across the country just to be there. Some knelt in prayer, others simply stood in silence, guarding a place they considered holy. Within days, the graffiti-covered stone wall that surrounded Graceland transformed into a living monument, covered with handwritten letters to Riley. Messages of sorrow, strength, and solidarity. Words like, "We've got your back," and "Elvis would be proud" were scrawled between tributes to Lisa Marie. Known for her grace and quiet strength, Riley Keough finally broke her silence. Her public statement was short, but it shook the world. Graceland is more than brick and wood. It's my family's soul, my grandfather's dream, my mother's heart, and I will protect it with everything I have. Riley Keough's words still echo through Graceland and beyond. She wasn't just protecting a piece of real estate, she was guarding a legacy, a family's history, a national cultural treasure, and the final resting place of the Presley bloodline. Her statement, brief but soul-stirring, became an instant headline. By the following morning, it was playing on news broadcasts around the world. Support flooded in from every corner. Celebrities who had once shared a moment, a memory, or a friendship with Lisa Marie Presley publicly offered condolences and praised Riley's unshakable courage. In Tennessee, state officials expressed deep disappointment at the breach and vowed to take legislative steps to protect Graceland's status as a historic and cultural landmark. Even Elvis tribute artists, often known for lighthearted impersonations, organized solemn benefit concerts. Every dollar raised was pledged to Riley's ongoing legal defense and the preservation of the estate. Inside Graceland, the atmosphere had changed. For the staff, many of whom had worked there for decades, the revelations hit like a tidal wave. In private meetings, some wept openly as they recalled passing those sealed upstairs doors for years, never once suspecting the darkness that had taken root just beyond them. For these loyal caretakers, this wasn't just a job. Graceland was a sacred duty, one they had carried out with devotion, pride, and love. They hadn't just preserved the home of a legend, they had safeguarded the soul of an American dynasty. The criminal case when justice fought back. The fallout from the Graceland scam was immediate and far-reaching. Riley Keough's legal team partnered with federal prosecutors to bring swift justice against the woman behind the scheme. She was hit with a barrage of charges: wire fraud, identity theft, forgery, and attempted grand larceny. The evidence, handwritten threats, fake documents, and the damning USB drive painted a chilling picture of premeditated deception. Confronted with a mountain of forensic proof and the possibility of spending decades behind bars, the woman ultimately accepted a plea deal. She confessed to forging Lisa Marie Presley's signature, manufacturing fake legal documents, and plotting to quietly flip Graceland before anyone noticed. She agreed to cooperate with authorities, detailing her methods in full. But the damage had already been done. The Presley estate responded by initiating a top-to-bottom review. Biometric locks were installed at key access points inside the mansion, inheritance protections were restructured, and digital forensic teams began combing through years of records for any signs of deeper infiltration. In the end, what could have been the theft of an American icon turned into a powerful statement about resilience. Riley Keough didn't just defend a property, she defended a legacy. And in doing so, she reminded the world that Graceland is more than a house. It's a living monument to a family, a culture, and a king. Graceland's future, securing a legacy in the wake of crisis. In the aftermath of the scandal, Riley Keough took decisive action to safeguard Graceland's future. No longer relying solely on legacy to protect the estate, she implemented sweeping changes. A full internal audit was launched, security protocols were upgraded, and a permanent fraud monitoring system was installed. The message was clear: Graceland would now be protected with the same vigilance as any high-value institution. The upstairs room where the disturbing evidence was uncovered has since been sealed off indefinitely, accessible only to federal authorities. For the public, it remains a mystery. For Riley, it's a sobering reminder of how close her family came to losing their history. But from that darkness came renewal. Weeks later, Graceland reopened its gates with a subtle but deeply moving tribute to Lisa Marie Presley. A garden of white roses now blooms near the meditation area, anchored by a plaque reading, "This house was love. It will remain love." LMP. Visitors walked the halls in silence, some with tears, others just holding their breath in reverence. Riley stayed in Memphis longer than ever before, walking the same paths Elvis once did. In that quiet time, among the echoes of a family's triumphs and tragedies, she seemed to embrace something bigger than herself, the full weight of a legacy now resting in her hands. The fight for Graceland's soul. This wasn't just a crime. It was an assault on memory, a brazen attempt to rewrite the fate of one of America's most sacred landmarks. But it failed, because Riley Keough didn't just inherit a house. She inherited a responsibility. The dolls, the forged papers, the whispered threats. They may linger in the archives, but Graceland still stands tall on Elvis Presley Boulevard, unbroken beneath Tennessee skies. Through her courage and unwavering resolve, Riley became more than a caretaker. She became a guardian of legacy. Her actions dismantled a years-long deception and restored faith in the story that Graceland tells, not just of Elvis, but of the family that still carries his name. The shadows of betrayal may never fully fade, but in the end, the light of truth outshined them all. Graceland remains open, not just as a museum, but as a monument to resilience, love, and the power of legacy. So now we ask you, what would you do in Riley's place? Could you protect the weight of a legacy when everything was on the line? Drop your thoughts in the comments below, and thank you for watching. We'll see you in the next one.